Welcome back to GMP Scenario, presented by PharmaContentLabs.com, where we break down common GMP mistakes, inspection risks, and the small control gaps that turn into big observations.
So what happens when a scientific test just fails? Today we're going to dive into something that's right at the heart of scientific integrity. It's called an out-of-specification investigation, or OOS for short. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but trust me, getting this wrong is a huge deal. We're talking the difference between good science and a major failure that could impact safety and even public trust.
All right, let me paint you a picture. This kind of thing happens in labs all the time. You've got a scientist, right? They're running a really critical test on a sample. Let's say it's a new medicine, and boom, the result comes back way outside the acceptable range. That right there is an official out-of-specification result. In other words, it's a fail.
And what's the first thing the team does? What's that gut reaction? It's got to be a fluke, right? The analyst probably messed up or something's wrong with the machine. So with no real investigation, they just grab another sample and decide to run the whole test over again. And what do you know? Just like they hoped, the second test, it passes. The result is right where it's supposed to be, perfectly within spec. You can practically hear the collective sigh of relief in the lab, right?
Okay, so now they have a passing result. What's the call? Well, they decide to just toss that first failing result, write down the passing one, and keep things moving. The product is good to go, on its way to the market.
I mean, on the surface, this makes perfect sense. It's efficient, they got the right answer eventually, so problem solved, right? Well, this is exactly where things start to get really, really sticky. So what we're left with is this classic tale of two results. One says fail, the other says pass. And believe me, how a lab decides to handle this situation, well, it says everything about their commitment to scientific and data integrity. Okay, let's pull back the curtain a bit. That's simple, what seems like a common sense fix of just retesting. To regulators, that is a huge compliance and data integrity failure. And why does this matter so much? Because it could mean a bad product, something ineffective or even unsafe, slips right through the cracks. Let's break down exactly why. And this is where you see the two completely different worlds collide. You've got the internal QC team, who are probably thinking, the first result was just some simple analyst error. But then you have an outside inspector looking at the exact same situation, and what do they see? An unproven assumption, zero real investigation, and a big, flashing red light for data integrity failure. And that right there is the absolute key. Handling an OOS result isn't just a technical thing you do. No, it's a full-on test of your entire quality system's integrity. Inspectors know this inside and out. It's one of the first places they look to figure out if a company is actually doing good science or if they're just fishing for the answers they want to hear.
See, the real problem here is that when you just replace a failing result, you're not solving a problem, you're just hiding it. Think about it. What if that first result was the real one? What if it was pointing to a serious fundamental problem with the product? By ignoring it, you've just made a critical decision based on totally biased data. And that can put people at risk. It's a huge deal. Okay, so if that's the wrong way, what does the right way look like? The scientifically solid, defensible approach. Well, it's definitely not about a quick retest. It's all about a structured, step-by-step investigation. An approach that holds up because it's built on actual evidence, not just wishful thinking. First things first, you lock that failing result. It happened. It's data. You can't just pretend it away. Then you kick off a phase 1 investigation. This is all about the lab, checking for any obvious errors, like with the equipment or calculations. If you come up empty there, it gets escalated to a full-blown phase 2 investigation, where you're looking at the product itself. And finally, if and when you find the root cause, you put in place what are called corrective and preventative actions. We call them CAPAs, to make absolutely sure this problem doesn't happen again. And this is so important. The whole thing has to be documented like crazy. We're talking a solid paper trail. You need a formal procedure for OOS, so everyone's on the same page. You need records of that lab assessment to prove you looked. If you do end up retesting, you better have a rock-solid scientific reason written down. Then there's the full investigation report and, of course, the CAPA plan, showing how you're going to fix it for good. Look, this isn't just about paperwork. This paper trail is the actual proof that you followed a real scientific and unbiased process. All right, so now that we know what the right process looks like, it's pretty easy to spot the most common and honestly the most dangerous trap that labs fall into. And yeah, this whole thing has a name.
It's called testing into compliance. It's exactly what happened in that story at the beginning. It's when you use the lab not to find the truth, but to find the answer you want. For an inspector, finding evidence of this is like a giant waving red flag. And don't fool yourself. Inspectors are trained to hunt for this exact pattern. They're not just going to look at one single OOS report. Nope. They're going to look at all your historical data. They look for trends. Do your investigations always end with, oops, analyst error, and then a magical passing retest? Because, well, that's a pattern, and it tells a story they've seen 1,000 times before. So when it all comes down to it, the big takeaway here is a really fundamental question you have to ask about any scientific process. Is your process designed to find the truth, no matter what that truth is? Or is it really just designed to get you the answer you want? Because in science, only one of those approaches actually has integrity.
If this helped, like and subscribe.